Prime Minister, Excellencies, Ministers, the Member of Parliaments, the Ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, the representatives of the international organizations, as well as the representative of the business sector and the private sector. Peace be upon you. We're glad to welcome you all in this very important meeting, in which we witness the launch of the Egypt's narrative for economic development under the patronage and the attendance of Dr. Mustafa Madbouly, the Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, we will start with the opening speech delivered by Her Excellency Dr. Rania Al-Mashat, the Minister of International Cooperation and Order, to talk about the institutional reference of preparing Egypt's narrative for economic development. In the name of God Almighty, His Excellency the Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouly, General Kamil Al-Wazir, Deputy Prime Minister for Industrial Development and the Minister of Industry, Dr. Khalid Abdel Ghaffar, the Deputy Minister for Human Resources and the Minister of Health, Excellencies and the members of Senate and Parliaments, the representatives of the international organizations, our partners and the leaders here, the chief and editors of the media agencies. We're glad that we're all witnessing the launch of the Egypt's narrative for economic development. We're glad that you are here. During the day, we are going to start talking about the reference, the institutional reference of preparing this narrative, as well as giving you the overview on the main axes. And we will hear from my dear colleagues from ministers, and will be ended by the speech of the Prime Minister. Actually, we have established and created this narrative under the directives of His Excellency the President of the Republic, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and I will end my speech by quotes from his speech previously, and also under the directives given by the Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouly, and the close collaboration between all the competent ministries, and we will discuss how could all the strategies are gathering together under one umbrella of the cabinet. And now we will be talking about the institutional framework, and we're going to tackle later why we have chosen the name of this narrative. However, I'd like to mention a very important two rules. These rules are regulating and governing the planning and how to identify different goals and strategies and how to follow up the implementation. We have the planning law number 18 and the unified finance law number 6, and actually the coming plan of 2026 until 2030. We are going to prepare a midterm plan, and this is under our commitment and compliance to the law. And during the preparation of the coming budget, we will talk about midterm projects, and we're working closely in cooperation with the Ministry of Finance in order to implement it in a new way under the supervisory of the new Parliament. On this background, we're implementing our role as the Ministry of International Cooperation and Planning in order to coordinate the different efforts in order to be reflected on the preparation of the coming strategy and plan when it comes to the infrastructure and the economic development, the development of the infrastructure and all the development done on the regional arena. And all of these are gathered together in order to enable us through our resources and our policies to implement those goals. We have talked several times in previous conferences about the word narrative, and this is our opportunity to explain with details what do we mean by narrative. What is the definition of narrative? It's a comprehensive framework in order to achieve the integrity between Egypt Vision 2030 and the program of the cabinet. Egyptian Vision 2030, when it has been prepared in 2015 and it has been renewed in 2018. And since this day, we have witnessed lots of updates and development from the economic perspective, health perspective, regional perspective, and policy perspective. We're witnessing daily challenges and opportunities. That's why when you are going to tackle the different chapters of this narrative, you will find that all the chapters are closely linked to this Vision 2030, and this is the renewal of the work we have done, and there is a close coordination between the vision and the plan. During the past 10 years, we have a great investment in the infrastructure that has created a developed infrastructure that enables the productivity and export. That's why when we're talking about the future and economic model that is based on continuing our economic reformation path and concentrating more on enhancing the work done in the productivity, and we will be talking about the tradable sectors, the sectors in which we have great productivity and be able to export after that. That's why the narrative is not only tackling the definition of the model, but also tackles how to implement such economic model. The third part, in order to implement such model, we must have enabling policies. The national program for institutional reforms, this is a common factor across all the ministries, and it has three axes that support the economic model. The first one, enhancing the stability of the economy, increase the competitiveness capacity, and enhancing the business environment. And this is very important when we're talking about a new economic development approach that is based on competitiveness and productivity. And the third axis or pillar, which is supporting the transformation towards the green economy. And actually, we're going to tackle in the coming plans the strategy of the economic development, foreign trade and operation, and we're focusing on the sectors that can be exported, on top of which the transformative industry, the energy industry, and the tourism. So we're tackling in one chapter the challenges and the opportunities linked to each sector. And also, after we have been able to create the integration between the vision and the program and deliver you a new economic model and talk about the institutional reforms and the structural reforms. We will find out that this narrative is translating all of these points into goals and into identified points in order to closely follow those targets, and we will see how could we translate all of these targets into development targets, and we will have outputs from the national dialogue and recommendations from the ad hoc committees affiliated or report to the cabinet. We have lots of institutional frameworks that generate recommendations and be included in our narrative. We have started our work since October 2024, and today we are launching this narrative. And we're going to tackle today the coming phases, because we have more than one phase, because when we're talking about the national narrative, we are talking about all of you, not just the government, but all of you representing here. So allow me to talk about the sustainability framework and the framework of finance for development. We have human resources, infrastructure, entrepreneurship, economic empowerment, and technology and green investment. All of these are under the umbrella of the economic development, and we are talking about finance for development, to finance our investment plan and our work. In order to implement this, we need the stability of the economy. When we are stabilizing this economy, we will be able to achieve positive results. Macroeconomies are very important, and stabilization of macroeconomy is very important. Because the development process is citizen-centered process. Actually, we have priorities for financing and expenses, and we will find it in the current budget and in the previous budgets. We have our mega development project in different villages and governorates, which is Haya Karima, or Decent Life. And we are increasing the financial allocation to Haya Karima, and we have the support and the donation for this program, and we are subsidizing different commodities. When we are talking about the priorities of expenditures, and when we are thinking about the public investment allocated for the human capacities, we will find that it has been increased significantly during the past 10 years. And there was a plan in front of the Senate in the previous in April 2024. It was a draft strategy for health and draft strategy to develop the infrastructure and to develop the technical education. When we are thinking of the economic model and the narrative, and the word narrative, which is its translation is narrative. Sardeya means narrative. So any private sector or any decision maker always thinks about the future, and he would like to translate the coming opportunity into reward. So when we're talking about the axis of the Egyptian economy, there is a very important point, which is the cornerstone of our model, which is the economic complexity index. This is a very important index, and we will find that Egypt is developed its rank, and Egypt rank is the 5th rank, and this reflects our powerful potential for our export. And another part which is very important for the mid-income countries, we will find that we are one of the most important countries when it comes to the green complexity index or indicator. In the previous years, we have focused on the renewable energy strategy, and we have created lots of initiatives in order to support the implementation of such a strategy. So when we are tackling the complexity index, we will find that we have a great opportunity in order to invest more in the highly rewarded sectors and the sectors that have a great ability for export, and we are working and paving the way through creating lots of enabling policies to implement such strategies. Now, we have talked about the perspectives and the axes, but what are our capacities in order to endure such hard tasks? When we are tackling the Egyptian economic environment, we will find out that we have developed infrastructure and tourism heritage that will support us in the tourism sector, human capacities, diversity in the economy models and digital economy models, regional integration, and we will find it in the industrial strategy and how they have employed the regional integration, food security, trade hub, and a huge market. And all of these points are real treasure, and we must tackle here 3 phases in order to reach our desired goals. First of all, enhancing the public investments related to the human capacities and the infrastructure, and the second phase, localizing the localization of knowledge and technology, and this is the scientific reference behind our ability to reach the 2 indexes that showed that we have a great horizon of opportunities to develop. So, lately, after the reformation of the financial reformation that happened in March 2024, the GDP has been increased significantly, but here we would like to tackle the nature of development. Here, we are about to offer you the 4th quarter, to enter the 4th quarter at the end of September, but we will find that there is a great increase in the GDP. So here, what are the sectors that support such development and increase? There are lots of sectors that increases the complexity index that we have mentioned, and there is a very important figure for the industrial productivity, which is increased in a stable manner, and there is a sustainable increase of export. So these are very important points. After tackling the numbers and figures, we must tackle the role of the highly productive industries. And when it comes to the expenses we will find that the public investments very huge, and the private investments has increased by 60%, and this is a path to be followed, and this will contribute effectively in the stability of the macro economy and the governance of the public investment. And actually, the development of the national credit has been very important when it comes to decreasing the interest rates, and there is 43%, which is the share given to the industrial sector in the credit facilitation. So you will find out that our narrative, our story is closely linked to the complexity, whether it's the green complexity or the industrial complexity. All of these are happening in parallel, and we have lots of reformations, lots of legislations and strategies and policies inside the government, and all of them are implemented in parallel. And we know that in the beginning of 2026 we must transform our local and economic development plan into a midterm plan. And here I'm going to spend a time talking about the economic model that is focusing on the high productivity sectors, and what are the enabling strategies that implement this in details. As I talked to you, we have a continuous economic reformation path, which is closely linked with our finance and credit policies, and we are always hearing a question about what are the reformations and what are the institutional changes and differences that you are introducing to your systems in order to implement such strategies. These strategies are very important in order to achieve the economic reformation, and it's inevitable in order to stabilize the macro economy. And this is very important for the path that we are taking in order to direct ourselves for investing more in the highly productive sectors and to utilize it with the maximum benefit possible. And all of these are very important, and we have seen in the previous stages the development we witnessed in the infrastructure, and how could we contributed positively in order to develop such competitiveness edge, and how we're able to include all the latest international trends. But what are the cornerstones of our model? What do we need in order to make our model sustainable? First of all, the macroeconomy stabilization and the economic reformation. This is the main pillar. Secondly, a structural shift towards the highly productive sectors, and redefine the role played by the country, and enable the private sector and encourage it. And all of these must come on the basis of the operation enabling policies, and all of these are contributed effectively to the stability of the macroeconomy, as well as enhancing the foreign direct investment, and adopt industrial approach based on enhancing the innovation and enhancing the technological reformation, create the human capacity readiness for the market, and localizing the economic development. This matrix is describing what will be next, and we'll be talking about how could we link all of these in order to create our crystal clear model with all these strategies and the enabling policies for development and operation. These are our cornerstone, our foundation to link all of our exerted efforts. We have talked about the cornerstones of such a model, and we have the finance policies which will be tackled in detail by His Excellency the Minister of Finance, and we will be talking also he will be talking about how to stabilize our finance policies in order to enhance the economic environment. That's why, as I told you, all the strategies are having a unified goal. Our monetary strategy and tackling the inflation and all the related financial issues that must be help us in order to guarantee our economic development governance, and our colleagues from parliament from different committees, they have a ceiling for the public investment. We would like to promulgate the best practices and to enhance the efficiency of these models. The national program for the structural reforms, very important, and it has three axes. First of all, enhancing the macroeconomy stability and also increasing the competitiveness capacity and enhancing the business environment, and the third axis is supporting the green economy transfer. You will find all of these axes in a timetable, and you will find an exact clarification for the role played by each ministry in order to support our economic model with fixed timings. These are the different competent agencies and entities that we are working together. We are closely collaborate and we are coordinating with each other in order to guarantee this a satisfied or satisfactory timetable. Here, these are pages from the narrative. As you see on the screen, each axis has its own targets. The second cornerstone is related to redefining the role played by the country in enhancing the economic development, and we have identified the role played by the country. Whether transferring assets for the sovereignty fund, redefining a set of activities, integration or reforming, all of these are alternative ways, and there are ad hoc entities that are going to study this and give us some recommendations. We have the security fund, the sovereignty fund, and the unified unit, and lots of other competent entities that will be all tackled during in the narrative, and also the information center reported to the Prime Minister, and this is very important and one of the most important pillar that will allow us to follow up and monitor the implementation of those strategies. What we're doing here is not just narrating some of the strategies, but talking about the importance of following up those strategies. The third part, which is the transformation towards the sectors that that can achieve the trade exchange. When we are tackling the different sectors, we will find that the transformative industrial sector is very important. It's from 1.9 to 3.4%, and the communication sector and the education sector. Those sectors are very important, and when we are looking to those sectors in details, and the agriculture sector and tourism sector, information technology and communication, we will find that our reference is in those sectors. Those sectors are having a real significance in increasing the operation. That's why those sectors, the said sectors, are on top of our development priorities, and in our narrative we have allocated a special chapter for them with all the priorities and the targets that we are aspiring to reach. And there are great opportunities in those sectors when it comes to the private sector, and we will increase the private sector contribution. And here we will talk about the different chapters of the narrative. And the different axes. We have executive summary that will be available today, and the first chapter is the macro economy stability, and the FDI, the foreign direct investment, is, and the economic development, increasing the efficiency and resilience of the business environment, regional plan, and the macro economy targets. And we have the support given by the ministers, the different ministers, the different minister. We had the support given by the deputy minister, the deputy prime minister of industry, industrial development, and the minister of industry, the minister of the higher education, the minister of education and the technical education, the minister of finance, the minister of labor. All of these ministries are helped us very much in order to reach the implementation or the drafting of this narrative, and all of these are linked to development indicators and development targets. And the common factor here is the human capacity development. When it comes to the chapter of the macro economy stability and the foreign direct investment chapter, we have health opportunities and industrial development opportunities. And as I told you, that our development process or program is citizen-centered development process. And this is the first chapter that is going to be tackled in details by His Excellency, the Minister of Finance, that I'd like to express to him my deep and sincere gratitude for his work and his team's work. And we will be talking about the mobilization of the human capacities and the main cornerstones of the midterm policies and the tax reformation, legislation reformations, and introducing new amendments to the laws. And at the end of each chapter, we will have the enabling policies enlisted at the end of the chapter in the first main axis related to the stability of the macro economy. And we have another part related to the development for the economic growth. This is very important, and this has been highlighted under the institutional national financing framework. and the target related to transforming a huge part of the public investment into a green investment, and it has many enabling policies in the first chapter and in the third chapter, which is directly linked to transforming toward a green investment. And also we have the strategy of the foreign direct investment, which will be tackled by His Excellency the Minister Hassan, and we will be talking about the industrial framework and the structural transformation and involving the private sector, and we'll have a part related to the finance for development, as Egypt is a hub for financing the low-income project, and entrepreneurship is very important, and the institutional reformation is very important when it comes to develop this environment, and we have lots of enabling policies. These show you once more that Egypt is a low-cost development finance hub, and we have been able to mobilize investments to the private sector of more than $15 billion. The majority of them are linked to the renewable energy and the green transformation, and we have a partnership with the European Union related to the green transformation, and all of these initiatives are contributing directly to attract the foreign direct investment and attract the contribution of the private sector. And as for the startups, we will have a new charter that is going to be launched soon, and it's going to tackle the roles and the opportunities of this sector. As for the industrial reformation, it will be tackled by His Excellency the General Kamel, and we will be talking about fostering the local industry and the integration across different sectors, investment in operation, and the attempts to link between Egypt and the neighborhood countries, and the mechanism of implementing CBAM, and the increasing the competitiveness and the green economy transformation. As for the foreign trade, His Excellency the Minister of Investment and the Foreign Trade will going to tackle it in details, as well as tackling the reformation that happened to the taxation and the customs, and how we linked between the foreign trade and the internal trade, and we will refer here to the complexity index. Once more, all of these programs and all of these strategies are supporting the model that we have talked about. We have different development partnerships, and we have a great role played by the international and national financial institutions in order to support the reformation and the development and investment in the foreign trade. This slide is showing you the integration across the two strategies, the strategy of foreign direct investment and the strategy of industrial operation. And those strategies are very important and directly linked and integrated, not in isolated islands. And here comes the important role played by the economic cooperation of different partnerships, and all of these are monitored and followed and are monitoring will be monitored and followed up by different ad hoc committees and will be mentioned closely and with details in the chapter related to the trade. And we are focusing on the renewable energy, the agriculture, the oil and the electricity, the economic development, the foreign investment. Those are the areas of priorities, and we are introducing new amendments to them in order to increase their productivity, which because these sectors are deemed to be the highly productive sectors, and they have a great ability to export. Sectorial overview. When we are tackling some indexes and indicators, we will find that the agriculture export is reflecting the competitiveness edge of the Egyptian agriculture goods, and it has registered a high increase, and in the communication sector it has increased significantly more than its average, and this shows that the development that happened and implemented in the infrastructure has reaped its fruits. And in the tourism sector you will find a great increase, which show the success of our model. As for the outsourcing industry, this is very important, and we're not talking here about the commodities only, but we are talking about the services localization, and there are lots of details that are going to be tackled by His Excellency the Minister of Communication and Information Technology, and he will tackle the steps taken in order to enable the communication environment. And there is a very important strategy related to our integration system and how could we create a resilient market that will meet the different needs of the foreign direct investment and the needs of the industries. That's why we have expanded the establishment of the technical and technological schools in Egypt under the auspices of the Minister of Education, and Egypt has utilized the demographic revenue. When we have traveled to Japan, we have been introduced to their resilience mechanisms when it comes to the demographic edge, and this will be tackled in details, and we will link all the outcomes. And here, when we are tackling the regional planning for localizing the economic development, we will find that through our investment plan and our low and competitiveness index will guarantee fair opportunities. And we have mentioned our presidential initiative Haya Karima, and also we have tackled different indexes from CABMAS, and there is an expenditure research that is going to be promulgated at the end of 2025 in order to talk about these significant roles. There are some details that mentioned when it comes to the regional planning and the integration across the different infrastructures, and we have mentioned how could we amend our financial equation in order to include and bridge all the gaps present now, and following up the different and periodic periodic reports which is related to the voluntary local report and the sustainable development rule report, and following the different indexes and indicators of sustainable development. And as for transforming towards the green development, we have said that in 2030 the public investment must be 70 to 75% of them must be allocated for administrating the climate change risks and trying to mitigate them. And we have mentioned NOAFI, which is a great platform, and we were in Spain to attend the conference of finance for development, and we have been introduced to different models and different experiences for different countries in order to include the climate change different perspectives in their general budgetaries and their general expenditures strategies. As for the targets, we are translating in the narrative all of our goals to identified targets. And by the way, this is not the last strategy that we are going to launch. We will have more strategies to be launched until we reach 2030 and 2050. The different scenarios we have, three scenarios. The main scenario that reflects the expected path, and another scenario for accelerating the reformation, and the conservative scenario, because of different consideration that maybe appear because of the international and regional influence. When we are tackling different indexes, we will find sectorial indexes and investment mechanism. All of these are mentioned in chapter 5. What is the essence of this narrative? This is a very important point. The stability to enable the reformation, and the reformation is supporting the stability. So it's a cycle linked together, which means that the macro economy stability, in which we are focusing on the highly productive sectors, and the foreign direct investment in order to enhance the income and then enhancing the economic development. This is a circle. So each strategy and each institutional and structural reformation are linked together and will lead us to the economic development. Here I'd like to tackle some of the projects or the issues that are raised on the international and regional arena.
إنه كلام كتير بيتقال على إعادة هيكلة النظام المالي العالمي، التطورات المرتبطة بإصلاح منظومة من الأمم المتحدة والتعاون متعدد الأطراف، سياسات اقتصادية حمائية، إعادة التفكير في المبادئ الاقتصادية احنا متعودين عليها. كلام كتير جدا في هذا المجال. بتبرز برضو على المستويات الدولية والإقليمية موضوعات زي مأسسة وحوكمة القرار الاقتصادي، تنسيق السياسات العامة وتعزيز التكامل بين الجهات المنفذة. وطبعا القضايا دي بتأتي بشكل مهم جدا وأساسي لأن في صدمات عالمية متتالية، وفي ده بيتطلب من كل دولة أن يبقى عندها مرونة في مواجهة هذه الصدمات، وتبقى جاهزة بسياسات عشان تحافظ على الاستقرار الاقتصادي. ومع ازدياد التنافس على جذب الاستثمارات، مطلوب من كل دولة هي بتتبنى سياسات ايه؟ سياسات محفزة للتنافسية تدفع نمو التشغيل وزيادة مشاركة القطاع الخاص. فدي امور كتيرة جدا هنلاقي في دوليا محليا إقليميا هي الهم الشاغل للكل.
So at all levels, we have to take into account the fact that we have to take into account the governance, we have to take into account the legal frameworks. This is in addition to the coordination between the different economic institutions. This is in addition to how we implement the strategies in detail. And in addition, we have to take into account the different revenues, how to have financial sustainability, and the importance of having financial borders, expanding the supply chains, linking competitiveness with the economic policies. So in all the international speeches, we always listen to such points. Another point is that such a narrative is an economic reform program that is considered an economic pillar for the Egyptian economy. Always, economic reform is linked to the monetary policies. We have to take into account the pillars of the economic development and how to achieve a new economic system by adopting specific economic structures, economic policies, and we have to take into account the promising opportunities in all sectors. So we have to take into account the strategy of the industrial development and the strategy of the FDIs. Any person who can read such a narrative, he may find such details and he may find all the links. And we have our missions abroad and our ambassadors abroad. They are considered an economic reference for the Egyptian policies and programs. We have to ensure the fact that in the future, if there is any other future strategies to be set, whether strategies concerning the sports and youth, we have to make sure that any new items may be added to such narrative in a way that makes it more integrated and linked to the economic and social reform plan. Today we are launching such narrative, and my colleague ministers are going to speak more about the different narratives, and this is a narrative for the economic development, and we're going to have an executive summary, and on September 14th the different chapters will be available as well. And during this time, between September and November, we are going to have and convene many sessions, ad hoc sessions, that will discuss the different chapters of the narrative. And the Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Khalid, is going to hold a conference on the healthy issues, and we're going to speak about the human development, and this will be one of the main inputs that are going to be discussed. And I hope we will have more recommendations, more additions, and in such a way we will add much items to this narrative. And we have a platform that is called Sharik in the narrative, or participate in the narrative, contribute to the narrative. You may log in and add your own feedback and comments, and we're going to have social sessions where you can attend and you can communicate your own feedback. Before closing, I'd like to thank all my colleagues, their excellencies, the ministers, the prime minister, because during the last period, and using such strategies, we can speak about an economic system or an economic model that is competent to achieve our ambition, especially with regard to the exportation and about the link to be connecting all the points. And I'd like to thank His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, because he is always a supporter and he is always encouraging us to do more. And during his speech in the parliament in April 2024, he said that we will seek to continue our efforts to achieve the aspirations of our citizens, and we're going to adopt more strategies that will expand the policies and the growth of the economy in Egypt in a way that will enable us to have a sustainable economy, and we're going to boost the contribution of the private sector as our main partner in the leadership of such a development. And this is our slogans in this narrative. And once more, I'd like to add that this is a narrative for the economic development. So the main item is the monetary policies. However, there are other points and other issues. You will be briefed about that during the coming next 2 months. And you are allowed, of course, and you are kindly requested to add your feedback at any time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Your Excellency, Dr. Rania Al-Mashat. And now we will call Dr. Ahmed Kojik, the Minister of Finance, and he is going to tackle the first chapter of the narrative, and he will speak about the macroeconomies and the supporting policies. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It gives me pleasure to be with you today, and I'm going to continue the presentation started by Dr. Rania with the attendance of His Excellency Dr. Mustafa Madbouly, the Prime Minister, and my dear ministers, their excellencies, the Egyptian ministers. As we have said, throughout our journey, they have been our masters and our experts. After the presentation of Dr. Rania, I feel that we may just clarify some points related to the narrative and its purposes and objectives. We need here to focus on an item. I will be back to such slides, but here I want to start from this point concerning what is the monetary policy and what are the main purposes of such policies, what are the main objectives of the monetary policies. It's very important to start from here. Actually, the financial policy, as mentioned by Dr. Rania, it's an influential part, and it's linked to the other axes of economy, because it may support the certainty for the foreigners and for the citizens, and this will impact the economic development and the main services provided in Egypt. In this stage, I want to focus on 4 objectives of the financial policy, and such main objectives are very important, and they will continue with us throughout the journey, and we will focus on them as a Ministry of Finance and as an institution that is leading the financial policy in Egypt, including all the financial departments, the financial institutions, and the financial departments. These are the main objectives. The first objective is to gain regain the trust and the certainty and the true partnership between the community world and the taxation department or taxation institution and the other European institutions as well. The other objective is to have a financial policy that is balanced. It's very important to have a financial integration, and we need to have, of course, good indicators concerning the general policy. But we have to take into account the economy, its indicators, how to develop economy, and how to lead to the growth of the economy, how to push forward the economic activities, taking into account the economic balance. So we need to regain the trust with the labor community. And we need to have a very important policies like the reduction of debts. This is a priority for the citizen, for the government, and we need to decrease the inflation, and we need to achieve good indicators in terms of the decrease of debt, because these are the main issues that are of concern for the Egyptian citizens, and I hope we achieve much success in this regard. And so we are trying hard to develop the indicators of the debts, the Egyptian debts. Such indicators will assure the Egyptian citizen, and we are having an average in this regard. And we also aim to creating a space. By a space, I mean additional resources, new allocations, redirecting such allocations to health, education, and human development. And this will be achieved through providing services that are very important to the citizen. These are our main objectives. In order to achieve such objectives in a balanced way, and when you read such objectives, you will find that the only thing that will enable us to achieve all such objectives efficiently is having a private sector that is strong, because it will push forward the economy, it will create a space that will enable us to achieve this goal. So the empowerment of the private sector and the empowerment of the productive departments is very important. These are the main pillars on which we have to establish our financial policies. And without that, we may not reach to the four main objectives. What I'm saying is that we have started this policy a year ago, and as Her Excellency the Minister has presented the vision of 2030, but I want to, before going into the presentation, I need to confirm the fact that the experience concerning the reforms that have been done are showing great opportunities in regaining the trust with the private sector and with the labor community. The first package of the facilitation of taxation has been declared, and we need to focus on that. Last year we had some financial reforms, like, for example, decreasing the taxes and encouraging the private sector and expanding the taxation space. And we are trying to gain the trust of our citizens. Our viewpoint is that we have to declare some of the packages, and we need to achieve such packages. And I feel so optimistic about the indicators. Last year, we have covered about 35% of the taxation policies. Such a number is very high, and we didn't achieve such numbers since 2005. And here, this is thanks to our supporters, our businessmen. What are the main features of such a success? I'm going to give you some examples. Now, we enabled the financial suppliers to provide their own taxation report. And they are having the opportunity to have a new start. The people has reported much financial activities, and they have paid the taxes in a good way. This shows that we are having a great space that will enable us create a special partnership with the businessmen. So this is just one model, one example. I may provide you with many examples, but we are going to continue our efforts in this regard, and in collaboration with the Minister of Investment, we are working on about 25 financial policies, and we're going to facilitate the buildings taxation, and we're going to declare more incentives for the taxpayers. And here I'd like to say again that this has happened thanks to our partners. So regaining the trust was very important, and such policies are going to be implemented until 2030. We are also now avoiding having conflicts inside the taxation departments, and now the citizen can find that he is provided with a good served, he is served very well, and he is satisfied about such services. The other point is about how to achieve such a balance in the financial policies. Now we are having transformative industries that is going back again, and it's achieving great success, and we are having many productive departments that are achieving real success. Now we have achieved all the targets of the last year budget. This happened in different fields, and that was thanks to the economic activities. You can never achieve good financial policies without having good economic policies. So we need to continue using this approach, and we need to redirect our balance sheet or our budget to additional activities. And His Excellency Minister of Investment is going to explain more about this issue. We have launched many initiatives in the industrial sector, and we are continuing the implementation of such initiatives. And this is for the interest of the citizen, of course. So that has been a great success, and I hope every year we will add more to that success. But the main message is that the financial discipline is very important because it will facilitate achieving such objectives. It will facilitate the growth of our economy. If we believed that we are the partners of the investor, that would be a great policy that will generate revenues for the state. The third point is the debt. During the last 2 years, because of the financial discipline and because of setting specific procedures, we have achieved to decrease the debt with about 10%. And now the primary indicators are showing that we have decreased our debt, and we have directed about 85% of our revenues to paying such debt in order to improve all our indicators. We are targeting greater numbers and greater figures. We are trying to develop our services. We are trying to set priorities. But we need also to serve the citizen in a way that will impact the developmental access. So we are having a good strategy that is being prepared now, and it includes many financial tools. Such tools are related to funding, and they are able to help us achieve success and achieve good indicators, especially with regard to the balance sheet. We are having now some important files that need to be taken into consideration with the collaboration between the different ministries. Such policies will be very supportive, and we will take into account all the needs of the state. The fourth point is why we are doing all that. Of course, to achieve the stability for the investor and in order to have a future vision for our economy. And the main purpose is to create a larger space for having additional resources, to have true resources. Resources that are generated from our revenues. We have to increase our revenues in a way that will enable us as a government, as an institution, to have more allocations. Of course, we need to redirect our allocations to education, to health. We need to increase the efficiency of such sectors, and this will be done by allocating special resources to such sectors. We are trying to create special data that will enable the ministries to function efficiently. These are simply the procedures, and I don't want to be lengthy because we are having many speeches by their excellencies, the ministers. And as Dr. Rania has mentioned, we have a large package of reforms that are going to be presented to you, and they will be implemented to the end of 2030. And we will add more items to such pillars, and we will make benefit of the community sessions that we will hold. So this is a brief summary about the 4 objectives, and I'm wishing you all success. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency, the Minister. And now we will move to Mr. Hassan, the Minister of Trade and Foreign Trade, and he's going to speak about the strategies of the FDI, and he will also add more about the economic strategies of Egypt. Peace be upon you. Good afternoon, Your Excellency Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, the ministries, representatives of the Parliament. I'm so happy to be with you today in the proceedings of launching the National Narrative for Economic Development. I will speak about investment because investment is one of the main pillars that have been mentioned by Dr. Rania. All we are doing as a government and as Egyptians is to increase the local investments and the foreign direct investments, because the growth of investments means that we are having more operations and more growth. Within the last few years, and according to the table, we are having FDIs that go between $6 and $9 billion. Such figures do not reflect our real ambition. When we speak about increasing the growth rates, and this is a real objective for having more economic operations, so we need to target more FDIs and local investment as well. The idea of investment is about how to attract such investment, and here I'm always focusing on the local investor. We need to hear the voice of the local investor. We need to know more about the challenges he's facing. What is the general atmosphere that is available for such an investor? We are having real challenges and we need to work on them. Investment is a matter for everything related to the entire system of the state. Last year we have said that the investor requires having transparent policies that are long term and that are reliable. We need to have a monetary policy, financial policy that is targeting the objectives of the next year. So we have to build on such a clear policy. But we have to take into account the fact that many investors are asking about whether they contribute with their investments or not. How to have concrete policies. The financial policy is very important because, as His Excellency the Minister of Finance has mentioned, we are having a real revolution in the financial policies, and the revenues have been great indicators. And we are having hundreds of companies that are now registered. So we are having monetary policies, financial policies, the role of the state in improving the economy, how to boost having clear investments. In the light of such items concerning the stability of the macroeconomy, we need to discuss the sustainability of labor, the framework of investment, and how to have sectoral programs. The study we are conducting nowadays, and it's conducted in collaboration with the bank.
We have created a study mentioning the policies of encouraging and creating an enabling environment for foreign development, direct investment, and it has two pillars. First of all, how to attract the foreign investor, and the second pillar is what are the benefits that will be created by by this foreign direct investment. And we have reached the first phase, the most the most important sectors that have total readiness to be developed and to invest in those sectors in order to increase the export. We have mentioned the localization, the communication and renewable energy, localization, solar energy, wind energy, and etc. The chemical industries, the tourism and the hospitality industry and the garment industry. These industries are very important, and the logistics and the transport industries, and the Minister of Transport will mention them in details, as well as the electronic industries. And we have the green hydrogen, the pharmaceutical industries, the service, the health and hospital services, the hospitality services, the car manufacturing industries. All of these sectors are very promising. And actually, this needs an attractive economic and investment environment. That's why, under the patronage of the Prime Minister, we have worked and we have undertaken this mission. Let us tackle the reformation axis. We have a part in which we are working to reform some of the mechanisms. We have tackled the price of the taxation. We have a very attractive taxation, which is 22.5%. We have talked about the problems that the merchant is endured. We have started with a fund, and we have decreased the taxation. And we have another tax, which is the solidarity taxation. And I can easily say that all the competent ministries agreed on how to decrease such solidarity tax because we must tackle this from the perspective of the universal health system created by His Excellency the Deputy Prime Minister for Human Resources and the Minister of Health, and this requires a constitutional reformation in order to amend this tax. As for the fees and other burdens, we have monitored unprecedented precise work done by all of our partners. The solution here that we're working on, how could we include these fees and additional expenses on electronic platforms. We do not want the investor to deal with those complex procedures. That's why we have created an electronic platform in which we have gathered all of these additional expenses to be paid and to be tackled on this electronic platform, and this electronic platform will be distributed those expenses across all the competent entities. Actually, this was a very difficult file, but today we have found a solution that will enable us to deal with this. The digital transformation is a very important part, and it's a common part across all the sectors. In order to achieve a paradigm shift when it comes to the investment environment, we must use the technological tools, And we started by activating the license platform that issued that contains 389 license. You can pay to get the license on in the internet without dealing with any person. So this will save time and save energy. And we are working on the coming phase in order to include 1/3 of the taxes on these platforms. This platform is not the only dream we have. However, we have a bigger dream and a bigger plan, which is the economic entities platform. This platform is a very comprehensive and wide platform. It links all the entities and links when you would like to establish a company, when you have procedures of the terms of references, and when you would like to obtain certificates or license, all of these procedures will be gathered together under one umbrella, electronic umbrella. Why do I do such umbrella? We sought the assistance from consultants, and we have created 4 models for 4 different sectors. And we have found out if you would like to establish a hotel, for example, you must take 33 procedures. They are asking you for 33 papers to be obtained. So why don't we decrease those steps? Why don't we minimize those steps or put these steps as a shortcuts on the internet to be paid, and all the procedures are being taken on an electronic form? And this is very important when it comes to creating the ecosystem for investment. We're talking about lots of procedures to be implemented in parallel in order to re-engineer the process of the country and the establishment. And I think that this is a national project that will take 1 to 2 years. And such a platform is very important. As I told you, that 1/3 of the fees and the expenses will be included on the license platform. This is very important, and this will enable all the entities to deal with the country in an electronic way. This, in its essence, one of the most important topics that we're working as ministers on. As for the performance in Egypt, the business performance in Egypt, in 2021, the competitiveness of Egypt was not satisfactory. Our rank was 104, and we're seeking to be from the first 50 countries. So we have changed our reports, and we have created the business ready report. We have worked on the legislation reforms, on the structural reforms, and on the institutional reforms. And all of the ministries are working together in order to achieve the paradigm shift in the business ecosystem of Egypt. And we have 10 axes. But the most important axis is to have a regulatory and legislative framework, and have a public services and the digital transformation, and enhancing the operational efficiency. And lots of other procedures. We have worked throughout the 5 months, the 5 past months, by direct assignment from the Prime Minister to work with several competent sectors, because this is very important. We have worked on a huge number of questions, around 1,900 questions. We addressed all of these questions, all of the challenges, and we have enlisted all the challenges faced by the investor. And within 2 weeks, we have launched a comprehensive reform matrix, and it has been circulated on the industrial chambers and the commercial chambers, and we are about to implement it, and it will be entered into force after a national dialogue. Those reports are nearly 1,000 pages, and I have displayed or presented this report to His Excellency the Prime Minister, and we have talked about 209 reforms. Those reforms are very important, and in each reform we have dozens of subsidiary reformations. So I have a group of consultants coming from different ministries and from the private sector. We have made sure that the private sector is actively contributed to the reformation creation mechanism. And today we had tackled the legislative reforms part with His Excellency the Prime Minister. As for the other part, which is 34% related to the digitalization of all the service platforms. And there is another important point, which is the timetable required for executing such reforms. When it comes to the short term, 3 to 9 months, we're talking about 60% of these reformations that will be implemented during 9 months, and this will be a paradigm success and achievement, but this is based on the national and community dialogue that will be concluded during the coming period, as well as the private sector intervention. I mentioned this in the investment file because we have an investment ecosystem, digitalization, business environment. All of these must be developed, and in the middle of September, we're going to circulate a draft paper on all the competent authority. I'll mention now the foreign trade. Our target here is to solve the deficit in our economy and trade. The figures that you have seen on the screen is very important, and I can easily say that in this year we will have the lowest trade balance deficit possible in the last 15 years. But we would like to rely on the national component rather than importing lots of component needed for the investment. In the first half of 2025, we have reached the lowest deficit in the trade balance. But as I told you, this is because of the monetary strategy and the strategic plan, because as you know that investment and trade are two faces for the same coin. In the past period, we have drafted a trade policy.
We had to go to the Egyptian community and tell them why we are having a trade policy and why. because when we consider trade in the competitiveness indicator, we can find that the Egyptian trade wasn't achieving the best results required. However, we targeted the exportation. Today, we are linking investment with trade. If I have a deficit, for example, in the balance sheet, I will not speak about the taxes. However, we are going to discuss how to expand my balance sheet and how to expand the trade efficiency. And as His Excellency the General has mentioned about how to protect the current industries using the trade tools, having protective policies. Today we are committed with the foreign trade. I have started discussing 4 files of foreign trade, and it's my first time to discuss this point. We are having safeguard measures that will be implemented in Egypt for the first time. Today we mainly aim to protect the tools of trade. We need to have importation and exportation, and we need to defend our local companies and corporates in using such trade tools. Concerning the program of the improvement and boosting exportation, I will discuss a program that has been implemented this year, and it's doubling the indicators of the previous year. And we are having more contracts in the Egyptian market, and this program will be revised annually in order to increase the added value in the local industries. And for the first time, many exportation councils has contributed a lot to this program. And finally, we are removing all the obstacles, especially in terms of taxation. Whenever we find an obstacle, we remove it. There has been a foreign company that said that we need 21 days in order to finalize a transaction, and we have facilitated the procedures with local industries. When we are having real reform policies, we will be guided efficiently. I need also to link between the trade representation and our position in different countries, how to have communication between the trade union and the industry union, and we are going to report such files to the fund of the adaptation fund. Also, we have started since 16 days. Every day we are saving about $150,000 per year, and now we are saving the costs, which creates more competitiveness. And as I told you, I have coordinated with His Excellency the Minister of Finance, and we have adopted about 25 procedures and measures in this regard. And we took into consideration the electricity and the electronic bonds, and I think by the end of this year we will reach better indicators. We are working on Fridays and Saturdays since last May, and we have conducted 80 transactions since then. We will skip this. I've spoken about this program, and I'll give you an example. What's the main role of trade? It's to provide a product. For example, the car market has suffered a lot because of the instability of the currency. Now we are providing the products using special agents, providing guarantees for the consumers. You need to identify the right of the consumer consumers, and this led to the decrease of the car prices with about 20%. And we have worked on this file and we have reached the same results. And now we are communicating with the private sector to achieve more success. Dr. Rania has presented all that in detail, but I want to conclude saying that any trade policy should be dependent on an investment policy. Now the figures are about 2.8% for the GDP, and when we work collaboratively on this policy, we will achieve more. This is just a start, and we are continuing our reform policies and reform strategies. Thank you so much. Thank you, Your Excellency. And now we will call Engineer Kamel El-Wazir, the Deputy Prime Minister for the Industrial Development, and he will discuss the third chapter of the narrative about its review of how to increase exportation in Egypt. In the name of Allah, Your Excellency Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouly, Your Excellencies, the Honorable Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, Dr. Rania has presented everything, and I had many items to discuss, but for the time being, I'll try to be brief. Some people are saying that we are having a narrative and a national strategy and an urgent plan. These are terminologies for the Egyptian industry. Such a terminology is pouring into the same objective, which is development. So when we speak about development, we have to take into account trade and industry. But the narrative can be divided into layers, and the narrative is summarizing everything. And we are having the national strategy for industry. It's also providing more details. And when you consider industries in terms of figures, we had now what we call the urgent plan for the Egyptian industry, and it's based on implementing strategies and figures. I'm going to speak about some main items, like, for example, the strategic development, the industrial development in the light of Egypt's Vision 2030 and the governmental program 2627, and we have the national strategy for industry 2030, and the urgent plan for improving and boosting industry. We have the mechanism of carbon policies, Egypt's transformation to be a regional hub for logistics and transportation, and the main reforms implemented on this regard. The strategic framework for boosting industrial development. The government is based on some strategic frameworks in order to achieve sustainable and comprehensive economic development. Egypt's 2030, the government program 2020-2024, 2025, and we have the strategies and the sectorial plans. The national program for national reforms and the comprehensive strategy for funding development, and we are having the general planning law number 18 for 2023 and the financial law number 6 for 2023. The industrial development in the light of economic governance. The national strategy 2025-2030 comes corresponding to having a comprehensive platform for the sectorial policies, in addition to having legal and institutional references. In this regard, the financial law number 6, 2023, and the general planning law number 81 for 2023 has been the main pillars for the implementation of this approach. And in this regard, the industrial development strategy is representing a governance framework for boosting exportation. I'm trying to be specific in order to be brief. The industrial development in the light of Egypt's Vision 2030, in order to provide incentives for Egypt's Vision 2030, there should have been some development for the local industrialization and encouraging the new ideas and ideologies related to trade and investment, and having digital transformation, in addition to providing more tools for the trade and the industrial sector, and providing better atmosphere for having good competitiveness. That has been one of the main objectives of the government. It's to expand the industrial activities and to focus on investments, improving the infrastructure of the SMEs, and raising the capacity of Egypt, especially related to exportation, and promoting for the innovative products. The national strategy for Industry 2025. The strategic vision is to have Egypt as a regional hub for sustainable manufacturing and for international trade and exportation that is based on the optimum use of resources and boosting innovation and technological transformation. This is in addition to paying more attention to the industrial infrastructure and providing the requirements of the local manufacturing services. This will regain the position of Egypt, especially in the light of having more local industries and to have localization of some industries, making use of technological tools as one of the main steps of expanding the local industry in Egypt, and to have the maximum benefit of the trade transactions that have been conducted by Egypt in coordination with some important countries. Concerning the strategic pillars, they are divided into 7. Some are related to the strategic plan and the Egyptian strategy, and they are a little bit different from the urgent plan for the Egyptian industry, and we provided more details. Concerning these pillars, the industrial infrastructure, education, training and technological development, deepening the local manufacturing and the development of trade suppliers, economic facilitation, providing a good atmosphere for manufacturing, supporting funding for the corporates, Resources and strategies that we have relied upon. We have relied upon reports and studies that have been conducted by many industrial institutions, and this includes some of the national visions and strategies, Egypt's Vision 2030, the government work plan, strategy of investment, the green hydrogen policy, localization of car manufacturing, renewable energy, the industrial revolution, and the sectorial strategies. Concerning the papers, recommendations of COP27, the document of the infrastructure reforms, exportation file, the file of local manufacturing, and we are having other political documents and political studies as well. The industrial sector in Egypt is characterized with many attraction features, and it's based on some strategies that are improving industrial development and that enhances competitiveness in Egypt, including having a regional hub in Egypt, the variety of resources, whether agricultural, industrial, and trade resources, various resources, infrastructure, what has been implemented and conducted, like bridges, highways, railways. Of course, this will contribute to the industrial development. Having an infrastructure reform, there has been an infrastructure reform that has been implemented within the last few years, and ensuring competitiveness and the reduction of prices of energy and electricity. Of course, all these are characterization of Egypt. Also, the market size. Egypt has a great market, and it includes many manufacturing activities. Concerning the handcrafts and industrial complexes in Egypt, Egypt has been divided into governorates, and in each governorate you may find various industries where there are some industrial complexes. An industrial complex is an economic complex that is combining many workshops that are working in the same geographical atmosphere. Industries in the productive villages. We are not only having industrial complexes, we have focused also on the productive villages, because the productive villages may lead to the employment of a large number of youth. And in such a way we will achieve an optimum condition for the Egyptian youth. And this will of course increase the productivity and the employment opportunities for the people of the village. One of the main villages is Shobra Mallas in Zifta in Al-Gharbiyya Governorate. And we have discussed last week this point with the manufacturers of cotton and linen. And I'm sure such villages will be revived again. We are having Said Abu Sha'ra village. It's a famous one, and there are other similar villages, and it's famous for the traditional carpets. We're having other village in Mansoura, and we are having Shubra Balula village that is famous for the production of jasmine. Of course, all these industries and all such sectors and villages have been taken into account. because there are places where we can implement and execute many industrial activities. We have provided more than 151 job opportunity for the youth, and most of such activities have been implemented, and we are focusing on the promising industries that include they provide good job opportunities and investment opportunities, and they are also fulfilling the needs of the local market, and they are satisfying the needs of the local exportation as well. They are providing tolerant prices, and they can be competitive with other industries. And such industries are based on 4 main pillars. The first is the density of the labor. We are providing direct job opportunities for the youth, especially in the sectors of carpets and ready-made cloth. This is in addition to some industries related to the provision of technology and power and electricity. We may have some industries that are not having dense labor. However, they are involving technological tools that will contribute a lot to some strategic industries. So this should be taken into account, and this is one of the main pillars of the promising industries. We are also discussing some kinds of industries that will provide an added value. For example, I may deepen the ready-made cloth by using linen. As the Minister of Investment was speaking about having reform tools, especially in the market of in the car market in Egypt. And we may also get Egypt involved in the manufacturing of cars instead of just assembling its accessories. Of course, this is existent, and we are having other activities related to the renewable energy, saline water, desalination, and we are trying to provide more tools to increase the efficiency of energy industry in Egypt. We are also having other activities related to the water motors, and sometimes we export such products. And this increases the exportation capacity of Egypt, and we are trying hard to expand such exportation rate. We are also manufacturing stairs, electronic stairs. These are targeted, promising industries. Concerning the future industries that are not energy consuming, the industrial robots, the technological tools, the medical tools, the car infrastructure, car accessories, energy tools, packaging tools, the robots that are providing healthcare services, automation tools, smart technology tools, and smart industries as well. The urgent plan for the promotion of industry. We have discussed the national strategy of industry, and now we will tackle the urgent plan for the promotion of industry. And it's based on many pillars. First, identifying the current industries, identifying the future industries. What is the timetable or the schedule for achieving the required rates, and how to expand the job opportunities for the labor. Concerning the urgent plan, it's based on 7 pillars. The first one is deepening the local industry by establishing factories in order to provide industries that are satisfying the local market's needs, in addition to considering the imported products, especially on the part of the Egyptian and foreign investors. Number 2, to increase the industrial space with a view to lead to the growth of exportation, especially in the industries that are relying on some of the primary raw materials, and to achieve competitiveness in the international market, employing the manufacturing lines in a way that raises the livelihood of the Egyptians, and providing the technical labor in collaboration with the Ministry of Industries, and to have digital transformation. I will not get into such details, but let me assure you, concerning the past year and a half, by using such 7 pillars, all the elements of the Egyptian government is having a weekly follow-up. And we are having weekly sessions where a special report is provided, and it includes all the discussed items that have been approved in order to help us issue some statements and resolutions. This led to the operation of more than 6,009 factories. And I'm having an official list with such factories. Such report includes the names of the factories and the numbers of the labor involved there. And we have issued more than 2,311 working licenses. This shows that such 6,000 factories haven't been implemented and established within only 1 year. It took time, of course. We coordinated with the corporates and the companies in order to establish such factories. Now we have provided more than 1,235 job opportunity. And we are also having 6,000 factories that are not still operating for some technical and administrative problems. And with the approval of His Excellency the Prime Minister, we were able to operate such factories. And next Tuesday, I will have a meeting with the head of the central bank, where we're going to launch a new initiative and we will coordinate with the Ministry of Finance. And we are having a third initiative, which is to restructure the non-operating factories that require budget approval, or where some financial items are still missing. So next Tuesday, during this meeting, we will launch a new initiative for restructuring the non-operating factories, and we will establish a fund that will contribute to the establishment of these factories.
I have taken 25% of those factories' expenses. So if the owners of the factory would like to regain the 25%, we may give it to them and take liquid. And if they would like the involvement of the Central Bank of Egypt, we will be with them. And as I'm telling you, there are more than 6,000 factories that are having problems with the liquidity. We have the Egyptian digital platform for allocating lands artificially, without any human contribution. If someone needs an industrial land, they are going to apply on this digital platform, and they are entering the requires. For example, if I'd like to make a factory for a garment clothes, and I need a certain pipeline with a certain kilowatts of electricity, you will identify everything, and we will present you all the lands available, and later, if we agree on something, you will be a land will be allocated to you without any digital intervention. And the same applies on Rubiki industrial areas. And through our digital platform, we have been able to allocate 2,500 lands. And if you would like to redefine your activity or expand your activity through taking the land adjacent to your factory, or you would like to establish a new factory in another place, we will give you the construction license. And we have issued a permanent industrial registered and a temporary industrial register, and through them you can take the operational license, and through this you will find that 4,300 of the 6,000 factories can export, and they have taken the industrial register. We are inspecting and following up the conditions of those factories in 25 governorates in order to provide the support without the closure of any factory. And this has been ratified by the Prime Minister and the President of the Republic. We do not close any factory. If they have a serious problem, we are creating an amendment plan and give him a plan in order to introduce development and to correct all the errors related to the civil defense, the local development, and the taxation in order to implement them, and we will revisit them once more. We haven't closed any factory since March 2024. And by 2050, we would like to achieve the carbon neutrality. These are our targets when it comes to the CBAM. We would like to combat the carbon leakage in order to decrease the the carbon footprint and rely more on the low carbon emission projects. And we will we will make all the exporters to the European Union to be complied to certain procedures, and the mechanism will be entered into force since the beginning of 2026. We have started with the iron, cement, salt, and sectors, and we have added the fossil fuel sectors as well, and the energy and the green hydrogen to apply CBAM on. And the Egyptian companies are taking the burden of $370 million for the Egyptian exports to the EU. And as per the World Bank estimates, Egypt is one of the highest countries that encounters the risks and the implications of implementing CBAM. That's why we have formulated a committee under the directions of the Prime Minister, and he has proposed the establishment of a ministerial committee, and we have held 11 conferences, and we have generated a set of recommendations in order to work on, and we have been working under the political umbrella of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and we have concluded lots of meetings with the private sectors and the competent ministries and the international organizations, and Egypt has attained the membership in order to follow up the CBAM implementation, and lots of entities we have worked with in order to give a ratification and certification certificates for the neutrality of the carbon footprints, and we are coordinating with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Investment in order to find new ways for investment rather than the European Union also right now. And actually we are creating periodic meetings, and we are reporting the results of these meetings and results of our work to the Prime Minister, and we will make sure that we are committed to CBAM. We are aspiring in order to transform Egypt to be a transport regional hub and a logical and transit and trade transit logical hub. That's we have developed our infrastructure, roads, railway, the electricity networks, and to transform Egypt to be the regional hub, because the trade will encourage the export and the trade, and we have planned 7 corridors for the international logistic paths, and this is under a clear assignment of the President of the Republic. Arish, Taba, Sokhna, Alexandria, Tanta, Al-Mansura governorates, those are 7 logistic corridors. It starts from productivity zone or area, industrial or service or agriculture services area, to an airport or a maritime port, by a railway and a speed electric train or high-speed roads in order to transform our ports to a place for circulating the commodities, the goods, and for transit as well. This is very important for the sake of creating Egypt as a regional hub. This is the idea behind the logistic corridors. One of the most important corridors is Al Arish to Taba corridor. It has made all the world look to Egypt and say that Egypt must be a part and parcel of the international corridors. To the IMEC, now we will become a part of IMEC, and we are linking the two ports, a port on the Red Sea and a port on the Mediterranean Sea, and linked by 350-kilometer high-speed train. And also reaching an airport as well. We have mentioned speedily the 7 corridors. Now let us talk about how to link Egypt with the neighborhood countries. Linking Egypt with the neighborhood countries is very important. First of all, how to link Egypt to Cape Town, 10,000 kilometers. It's a road, and Egypt has implemented 80 to 85% of its part in cooperation with the African Development Bank, and also the other road, Suez to Hurghada, and then reaching Port Sudan. It's linking Egypt to the north of Sudan. And we have another important corridor linked Egypt to Libya and Chad, and to the modern countries in the middle of Africa. And then the international coastal road that links all the capitals of Africa. And then we have the speedy electric trains that reaches to Marsa Matruh Governorate and Saloum, and we are coordinating with our brothers in Libya in order to extend this railway to Bani Ghazi, Libya, and from Aswan to Wadi Halfa in Sudan from the south, and linking through the maritime transport as well. We had to develop our ports in order to circulate this in 2030. In 2030, we will have 300 million tons of commodities and goods. Right now, we have 9 to 9.5 million containers. Half of them are transit.
And we will reach about 13 million containers that will be in a transit stage. And then for other harbors, we have developed the Navy We have developed the Egyptian company for the Egyptian containers, and you have seen President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi when he was raising the flag in Al Arish, and His Excellency the Prime Minister was raising the flag in Damietta harbor. And we are having 2 containers that will reach China soon, and now we are having a large number of containers. This is in addition to the Arab bridge for Navy activities, and now we are having 2 containers that will work from Safaga to Tanzania, and we will have other containers working in West Africa. The linkage access amongst the African countries, we have developed a Saloum port, and we are having another project connecting between the Mediterranean and Victoria Lake, and it passes by South Sudan and Burundi, Rwanda, and other African countries. We have developed Halfa port in Sudan and the High Dam in Aswan in order to achieve linkage through the Nile River. One of the most I'm going to mention some of the most important reforms. Such reforms include boosting competitiveness in the industrial sector. This is in addition to governance of the industrial parks, facilitation of reaching out lands, merging the industrial sector, developing a green economy. Concerning the targets related to the industrial development, I'm going to mention some of the figures. The contribution of this sector has been 3.5, and now in 2025 we are having 3.9, and by having 2030 we will have 8 million labor, and we are targeting 100 factories and plants concerning the transformative activities. Now we are targeting 18% in 2030 concerning the exportation. In 2024 it was 62.6, and now we are targeting $45 million. In 24 we are now having green hydrogen activities and industries, and by the coming of 2030 we will target 5% increase. Concerning the contribution to the GDP, it was 6% in 2024. And by the coming of 2030, we are planning to have a growth rate that will reach 20%. The net revenues with $1 million. Until now, we are hoping for minus or negative 14 by the coming of 2030. Improving industrial development, such figures are reflecting the essence of the national narrative that is considered a comprehensive framework achieving coordination and integration between the government program and Egypt's Vision 2030 in the light of the changes that have been imposed concerning the regional updates, regional and international updates. Aiming to the continuation of the economic reform track, focusing on a larger percent of the industrial sector. To conclude, I'd like to thank you, and I'd like to thank His Excellency the Prime Minister and His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for focusing on the outcomes of the local industries. I'd like to thank my colleagues for the efforts exerted, and I'm wishing to plan an event in coordination with Dr. Rania in order to provide more information about the developments we're achieving. Thank you.
معالي الفريق المهندس كامل الوزير.
Now the concluding remarks of this event, the national narrative for the economic development. It gives me pleasure to call His Excellency Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouly to give a speech. In the name of God, Your Excellencies, the Ministers, Your Excellencies, representatives of the Senate and the Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, peace be upon all of you. It gives me pleasure to meet you today in the proceedings of the launching of the national narrative for economic development. And the subtitle is the supportive policies for growth and operation. And I'm going to focus on this subtitle because the whole world is now discussing the idea of growth and operation. This narrative through this narrative, we are trying to respond to many inquiries that have been raised recently. Is Egypt able to overcome the current challenges? Do we have long-term and short-term plans? Is the government having any strategies to respond to the current challenges? Are we having integrated policies, or we are working in isolated islands? Of course, throughout the past few months, we were trying to respond to such inquiries, and such narrative is not just a reaction. We wanted to gain the trust of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to form the new government in last July. And such work will not be left only for the new representatives of the government. It's an accumulated work, and it's an accumulated effort that have been exerted through a crucial time. And I want to say something. You as experts know very well. Throughout the past month, I was honored to attend two summits on behalf of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The first summit was in Japan. It was the Arab-Japanese summit, and I also attended the development summit in China in the attendance of the world leaders. All the speeches of the international leaders were discussing the non-clarity, and they were discussing the fact that this is a crisis management period, and the crucial time we are facing since the Second World War, and this is in addition to some economic burdens, especially for the emerging and developing countries. Now we are having an inflation And we are having international institutions that have been existent, like the UN. There has been a request to restructure such international organizations under the current challenges, and such challenges cannot be overcome only by such international organizations. And this has been involved in the speeches of all the world leaders. No country can alone be able to respond to such a current crisis. This is a summary of what I heard from the world leaders during the previous summits. And here I'm speaking about developed countries, not about just small states or developing countries. Here we are describing the current status of the developed countries. So it was our role as a government, despite such a great challenge, such a crucial time, it was required to have a policy, a strategy for the state, and we have worked on this strategy long before. But now we are focusing on how to make the maximum use of the resources in the logistical sectors. We also focus on the productive or the manufacturing departments, and here we have to discuss the point of transformation from being non-tradable sectors to the tradable sectors. What I want to discuss is that in order to focus on what has been mentioned by Mr. Kamal al-Wazir, His Excellency Mr. Kamal al-Wazir, I need to move and I need to attract more investments. This wouldn't have been done without the country's efforts to establish and develop new infrastructure. No foreign investor would have been able to come to Egypt and invest his capital in Egypt without restructuring the infrastructure of the state. Without having roads, without having energy, without having water. This has qualified Egypt in order to be competent, in order to have a paradigm shift in the fields of development and growth. I'm going to give you example. There has been a great success because the country has invested much capital on developing infrastructure. And this has led to great mobilization to this area from the investors. When we expanded the size of the ports and the harbors, and when we linked such harbors to the transportation lines, this led to having an acceleration in the development and the growth. So having such infrastructure that has been implemented within the last few years, we are now competent to focus on the tradable sectors that will create an added value for the state. All the international experiences shows that all such developed countries have started from this point. They started from restructuring the infrastructure and then turning to the tradable sectors, collaboration with the ministries of communication, and then we moved to more innovation and we got to be involved in more complicated industries. And from here, We have developed such narrative which combines all the efforts exerted by the state and the state or the countries and Egypt's vision. So it includes the reforms that have been adopted, the reforms that would be implemented in the taxation sector in order to provide a better atmosphere for the investment. What are the measures and procedures to be taken into account to encourage the private sector to contribute to the growth and development? This national narrative is based on a pillar, which is the private sector should lead the development within the coming period. This is what we are preparing for. We are trying to qualify the private sector to contribute to the development. The recent reforms helped us contribute to such aims. Now we are having a growth rate which is 4.2%, and this is in comparison with the percentage of last year, it was 2.4. And this is pushed by the tradable sectors like industries, tourism, digital transformation, modern technology. Experts are always saying that we have to build economy on basic pillars that are sustainable. The balance sheet has been improved. We have achieved a surplus with about 30.6%, and this is the highest figure to be achieved in this regard. We are also having a complete vision. We are directing the debts. There has been a proposal that hasn't been discussed by their excellencies, the ministries, and you will find it in the executive summary. We are here identifying specific figures, and we are targeting the decrease of debt within the coming period by a percentage that hasn't been witnessed by Egypt before. Such figures are inserted and added to the narrative. And now you can witness the inflation rate is falling significantly. And we are having now 22.7%. 13%, and now we are having about 36 billion US dollars in terms of the money sent by the Egyptians abroad. And we need to be sustainable concerning the percentages. We have to be sustainable, and we have to keep about 5.7% of growth. And the narrative is mentioning such details. And despite all the challenges we are witnessing at the policy level and at the foreign level, and we may expect bad scenarios. However, we are still having stability. We are witnessing stability at the institutional level and at the private sector level. Before coming to this event, we had a meeting at the national level, and I was following up what's happening in terms of the growth. The Egyptian exportation will increase by the coming of the next year with about 20%. But what's most important for me is to keep such a percentage sustainable, or not to have an increase with about 20% every year. This is the way we may achieve development. We shouldn't witness any recession. Using this narrative and using this vision, we have to be committed to our policies. And such a narrative hasn't been planned only by the state. As Their Excellencies, the ministers, were presenting, they mentioned that such figures are just a draft. This is a primary draft, and this has been a result of all the reforms that have been adopted. Reforms in the at the investment level, and I have a strategy for industry and for trade, for tourism, for energy, how to transform the local energy, how to have a strategy for human development, and how can Egypt achieve benefit of the trade transactions we are conducting. This has been combined in such a national narrative, and it's combined in the form of a vision of 2030. And we may also discuss other things related to what is post-2030. So the most important point is to make sure that development is sustainable and how to witness growing growth rate without facing any obstacles, without being reluctant. This is the most important point. And this is our focus within the coming period in order to have a well-developed economy. Such a vision and such a narrative or such a document will be a common property between the government and all the institutions that will contribute to its preparation. And this is, of course, for the benefit of the livelihood of the Egyptian citizens. So it's not about numbers and figures and indicators. We have to get this reflected on the livelihood of the Egyptian citizens. And this is our main focus. So we are re-identifying the role of the state in the economic activities, how to empower the private sector, how to measure the development using indicators, quantitative indicators that will make us be more committed. During this period that is characterized by risk and turbulence, and I'm sure that this period will change, and it will be written, history will write about this period, and we're going to feel the consequences of this period within the coming years. So our main objective, the main objective of this national narrative, and of course we are going to add more details starting from the coming week. For each chapter of this narrative will be there. It will be made available, and there would be social discussion, and we will have ad hoc groups that are going to discuss the items and the pillars of such a narrative. And such a narrative will be considered by elite experts from the Egyptian government and from the international institutions, and they will provide their own feedback on this narrative. And such social discussions will take about 1.5 months, and during December we will combine the recommendations of such sessions in order to declare overtly the new vision of Egypt that will be continued for the 5 coming years. To conclude, I'd like to provide my thanks and appreciation for the Minister of His Excellency, the Minister of Planning, and for all the colleague ministers who contributed a lot to this national narrative. And we're going to upload more details on the electronic platform. And as I told you, this is a collaborative effort, and this is just a draft, and it's just a draft recommendations for the social sessions and the social discussions that have been convened within the last few months. And it also includes quantitative indicators that will enable the state to be more committed to the achievement of such objectives. Peace be upon all of you.
وفي الختام نتوجه بجزيل الشكر.
At the end, we would like to express our dear gratitude to the Prime Minister for the conclusion of this event, and we would like also to thank all the attendees, dear ministers, the Member of Parliament and Senate, and all the distinguished guests. Thank you.